Hey everyone, welcome to week 45. This is Friday. This is our last day of our Look Elsewhere week. And today kind of seems weird for me, but I'm going to do something that, I've done throughout passages of paintings, but I don't think I've ever done an exercise where I try to really abstract nature and to let go. So I'm going to give that a shot, as much as I can do it today. So next week, new theme, we're going to be here, so we'll see you guys next week.
Okay, let's get started. This is Friday. This is our last day of our Look Elsewhere week, and it's been an awesome week. I think we started out the week by just doing kind of like the simplest thing we could do, which was saying, okay, I'm going to look at something that I don't really consider exciting. And I had my reasons. Terrible reasons, of course. But, they centered around me being afraid of this subject matter. So first day, it was about pushing myself to paint something that I just naturally wouldn't be attracted to paint. And that was very, very cool. Second day was actually trying to paint something that didn't need to be painted. So that was really awesome for me because in my mind, that equation would end immediately there. If it doesn't need to be painted because it works as it is, why paint it then? We don't have to paint everything. Just because I am a painter, I'm not obligated to paint everything. So it was very cool to find a reason for painting something. And I think the reason for painting one of Danny's wood carvings was not because I wanted to make a painting of Danny's wood carvings. Instead, through painting one of Danny's sculptures, I could gain a deeper appreciation for it. My appreciation for it was very, very profound. I absolutely love and respect what she does. But by doing this, I speak of a sort of heightened consciousness that comes from just observing and trying to translate what we are observing into paint. Then on Wednesday, we just gave in to caprice. It was a painting about whim. It was saying, I want to paint this, but I shouldn't really paint it because it's kind of dumb and it almost feels like it's a joke that has a short life. So no, painting is actually meant for serious things, for deeper and more profound things. Why would I spend time on this thing that feels so absurdly superficial? And it was about me telling myself, well, because this is the week to do it. If not now, when? When are you going to experience that if you don't give yourself a chance to say, let me see what this feels like? Painting doesn't have to feel like a burden every single time because you guys know this. It's almost like we're carrying 3 tons of rocks, on top of our shoulders. It doesn't have to feel that way all the time. And I think painting 653 was just awesome. It felt fantastic. I was almost like giggling all throughout the painting. And that's something that I don't usually feel. I'm not saying that I usually suffer through a painting, but I kind of know the feelings that are attached to painting and the frustration that usually accompanies painting. So it's really strange to just do something that makes you smile, throughout the painting session. And even now when I'm looking at the painting, I'm like, oh my God, this is so stupid, but it's so cool that I love myself for letting myself do this. Sometimes we have to do paintings that don't quite make sense. And in not making sense, they are absolutely perfect. And I think that I had to do something like that for this week. Again, if not this week, then when? And I think that's the true wonder about doing weeks like this, because usually we have projects that are full of gravitas. If we are studying, we have to do it portfolio, or if we're working professionals, we're working towards an animation or a video game or a movie or a gallery show, or we're hoping that the work that we're doing can get us into a bigger gallery or a bigger publisher. Our work always has this responsibility and this weight attached to it. And it's so cool to just liberate yourself from that. So that was awesome on Wednesday. Then on Thursday, because I had like this tiny little taste of doing Danny's sculpture, just slightly, millimetrically larger than what the actual sculpture was, I was like, I should try and investigate this sense of scale, what scale means within my painting. and give myself a chance, because when I looked back at my own painting, I was really surprised that I had very limited examples of me doing anything with scale. And I think it certainly is like a missed opportunity. So even though I sacrificed establishing relationships within a painting, and I tried to do something that was a little more abstract in the sense that it was just a sole subject void of surrounding information, and the questioning of the scale was happening outside the painting. You know, it was actually asking a lot of you as a viewer, you as the observer of the painting, almost like building these new connections with this very familiar and yet unfamiliar, because of the way it was presented, object that was this wooden clothespin. And this brings us to today. Because there was an abstract way of thinking about the painting yesterday, I told myself I have to do an abstract painting, but it can't be like an abstract expressionist painting that has left the sensible world behind. I have to have a foot on the door of nature. You know, I always want to start from nature. I think that the exercises in abstraction that I connect with the most are the ones where you can sense a natural origin. So the word abstraction, it's not really just like a term, it's actually an action. It is you abstracting these elements from nature. And I wanted to see if I could do that, because I've never really quite given myself the chance to fully paint something that's quite abstract. Now, I've painted countless areas of my paintings, especially in the ones where figures overlapped and spaces overlapped. I've painted a lot of areas within those paintings that are very, very abstract. So it's not like I've never had this experience, but I think today I was trying to do something a little bit different. So I told myself, okay, this is the view outside my window. Really nice view to this small park that's right in front of us. And I was looking at it, and right now in Bogota, the weather is very weird. I mean, Bogota can have, you know, all seasons just wrapped up in a single day, like in an 8-hour period. You can see sunshine, then just ridiculous wind, suddenly overcast skies, then like a lightning storm, then hail, and then suddenly the sky opens up again and you have this beautiful afternoon. And, you know, that can be every single day in Bogota. But usually, right now in late November, early December, we have very gray days. Bogota is usually a very gray city, and I love it. I actually love it. I adore it. I think that my color sensibility comes from being from Bogota. You know, I understand sunlight in a very, very different way. I understand light in a very different way. And I love grayness. I love mucky, dirty grayness. So I told myself, what if I just embrace this grayness? All this week, we've been talking about using the palette that I have, this traditional palette that I've always used, and knowing that it does have restrictions, it does have limitations. And I told myself, okay, so let me see if I can do a painting where I'm going to hold on to abstract elements. You know, I'm going to only speak about shapes. I can speak about the native color of things. So in this case, you know, the street was going to be this purplish gray. Trees were going to be all sorts of green, earthy hues. Building facades were going to be kind of like orangey, earthy, grayish hues. The sky was like this silvery, overcast sky. So it was going to be like a very, very light umber blue hue. So I was going to hold on to, let's call it the native colors of those things. And I was going to try to be faithful to the shapes, but I was also going to try to divorce myself from those shapes, because I do have a naturalist impulse, like a naturalist tendency. I adore nature. Even though I don't feel the necessity or the responsibility or the obligation to depict nature faithfully, I love nature. I love starting from nature. I always feel like I'm blessed every day to have this chance to have a conversation from nature. I love to have that interaction with nature. It's always like a give and take, but if I have to evaluate myself as a painter, when I see myself as a painter, I know that through my painting, I will always celebrate nature and the universe. I am in awe of everything that I look at. For me, it's very, very difficult to divorce myself from what I'm looking at. If I see tree, how do I not say tree? You know, how do I do a painting where the shape is going to somewhat echo that shape of the tree, and the color is going to reinforce that essence of tree, And yet I have to tell myself, don't think of tree, just think shapes, just think rhythm. But the thing is, I put another hurdle in front of me where I said, well, if I am going to do this and if I am going to paint these shapes and I'm trying to separate myself from the way things are signified, then why not just embrace that grayness? Why not just push all those values really close together where everything is going to be gray? There's going to be slight changes in value. There's going to be areas of contrast, but they're not going to be there in order to help me give order to the things that I'm painting. They're not going to ground the things that I'm painting. It's not going to be the role of saturation or value to make the painting more easily traversable. So if we're traveling through this painting, it's just going to feel swampy and muddy and foggy. I kind of wanted that feeling because I told myself, if we're going to do this, I don't want to be aided by value or aided by color. And this was probably one of the most difficult things to divorce myself from. I have these two Japanese fantastic, absolutely fantastic, masterful illustrators that are Tadahiro Uesugi, a complete genius, and Tatsuro Kiyuchi. And both of them, they do have this sensibility that comes from a connection with Japanese art history. And even when ukiyo-e disappeared to make way for a new era of printing, which I'm going to ask Danny to show you some examples of that, this renaissance of 20th century Japanese printing was obviously connected to the attraction that Europeans had in the late 19th century and then early 20th century with woodblock printing. And the images that are produced are just amazing. But to take it back to Uesugi and Kiyuchi, they are incredible illustrators. The way they compose their images is just so masterful. I mean, they are using composition just in brilliant ways. And the elements that I find admirable are very much so present in both of their works. Again, the compositional devices that they both use to actually help you traverse the image, the way they use shapes and light and value to help you establish hierarchies in the image and to land on those moments of the image that are of the utmost importance. They are just geniuses in taking your hand and leading you through their images. So I had both their works just kind of etched in my mind, and it was very hard for me to tell myself, let go, let go, let go. And I think that today's lesson is about letting go and about making a ton of sacrifices, because if I actually judge this effort that I'm doing today based upon the images of Uesugi and Kiyuchi, then this painting just doesn't seem to make sense because there's no hierarchy in the shapes. There's no real use of value to traverse through the image plane. There's no use of hue and saturation to, again, help me establish hierarchies in the image. So there's a ton of elements that are so essential to the way those images are constructed that I'm sacrificing all of those to say, I'm doing this exercise on abstraction and I'm letting go of those things. In the same way I wanted to let go of the tree-ness of the tree, of the street-ness of the street, of the buildingness of the buildings, you know, the essence of things, just so that I could concentrate in this very simple relationship of shapes that were very close together. I mean, this is a very harmonious painting in the same way that everything that's covered in mud would be harmonious. So I wanted to give myself a chance to embrace an image that would almost like constantly push back. It was an image that was putting me in a situation where I was reminded of these fantastic illustrators, and at the same time, it was telling me, think about those images that are beautifully efficient at what they're trying to communicate and forget them and do your very gray abstract painting. And I loved this exercise. It's very difficult. It's very painful. Again, because it goes against my instinct. I think that there is a connection that I have with nature where I do want to speak about foliage in a way, and I want to try to solve it in a way. And maybe my way of solving it can be a very simple way of, you know, understanding a complex problem. But I'm always going to hold on to the nature of things. And when I have to separate myself from that very nature, it just leaves me completely, almost like unshielded, completely bare. And I'm glad I gave myself an opportunity to feel that feeling, because I could have used so many devices in here just to make my life a little bit easier. You know, I could have told myself, just expand your value range, just paint some lighter colors and just really, really use contrast. Or I could have told myself, just expand your hue range. Don't just use yellow ochre, just put like a nice bright yellow. And that will give you possibilities when you're mixing greens, and it will make for a far richer painting. And if you have saturation, you can use saturation also to travel through the image. Give yourself a chance to use these tools that you already know exist to try to make a more efficient painting. But I guess the exercise was asking of me to almost throw away this idea of efficiency. And in the same sense that on Tuesday, I taught myself that the measure of a painting can't always be just about how well I painted something, because the measure of Tuesday's painting, when I painted Danny's wood carving, didn't reside on the image itself. It was actually 100% based on the learnings that I could gather while I was painting it. It was on the act of painting that I actually said, I am gaining a deeper appreciation for Danny's work. That was the beauty of Tuesday's painting. And today I had to tell myself, this is not about the instinct that I have to be efficient. I had to put my arms down and I had to give in, and I had to say, okay, I'm going to embrace this grayness. I'm going to embrace these shapes, and I'm going to tell myself, I'm going to start from nature. So trees are going to feel like trees. Grass is going to feel like grass. You know, there's still plenty of connections here with the nature of things. And yet I feel that the decision to make everything just very dull, very gray, it was very nice for me. I felt moments in the painting where I was able to disconnect myself from that instinct of trying to describe, of trying to represent, and that was very, very nice. I have to say that that's a very interesting feeling. I'm very reticent as a painter to just open up that door, to just fully open up that door, because I'm almost afraid of opening it up. I'm pretty sure that if I did open that door, it would show me like this universe that I don't even knew existed. And I would just see this myriad of roads that I'm never going to have time to travel through. And I would almost feel like overwhelmed by the things that I'm never going to be able to do or learn about painting, just because I'm never going to have time. I need lifetimes of painting so that I could travel through the millions of possibilities that painting can offer me. And I'm so glad that this was just this tiniest bit of taste of something that I know nothing about, where I'm completely vulnerable and where I have to fight to find my way through. And I honestly had to stop myself and tell myself, your instinct is telling you to go further, but going further in my mind was trying to make everything feel closer to its natural shapes. When I caught myself feeling very insecure about if the painting would read properly, about if the painting could be composed a little bit better, if the shapes could be a little clearer, if I could say tree-ness a little bit better, if I could say grass-ness a little bit better. When I caught myself just thinking of tree, of grass, of street, of building, I told myself, no, stop. Just navigate these shapes and navigate this grayness, and then let that be. Don't try to start somewhere and then bring it back to what you know how to do. As soon as you feel that urge to just bring everything back to what you think you know, stop. And I stopped, and I'm grateful for doing that, because when I look at this painting now with a bit fresher eyes, I can kind of see all those struggles and sense all those struggles and sense, you know, these wonderful opportunities that would lie behind, you know, trying to embark in these different journeys. So I think it's a painting that introduces to me this incredible unknown world. And I loved this experience for that. So that's going to be it for today. We're nearing the end of the year, and this year has certainly been nothing short of surreal. So we are grateful that we've been able to establish this small little family with you guys. And every week we give thanks to you guys for giving us a chance to be your company for just a little bit during your busy days. So again, Danny and I thank you from the bottom of our hearts for that. Next week, we're going to have a new theme. And after that, we're going to have another week. And then we're going to go on break until the new year. So we're going to have 2 more weeks after this one. And we're going to see you guys again on January 3rd. We need a Christmas break, both of us. I'm not going to lie, we're exhausted. And it's good that I stop because unfortunately for the last maybe month and a half, 2 months, I've had a lot of wrist and hand pain, and it's not really disappearing, and it's becoming kind of like chronic. And I know I've pushed my hand a lot this year, and the reason it's been a little weird is because I usually painted standing up. I painted small paintings, but then I painted larger paintings. And larger paintings, they involve more of your body. You have to do brushstrokes from your body, from your shoulder, from your elbow. And this has been true for the last couple of years. I've been painting smaller and smaller, which means that I paint with my hand and my wrist. What that does is just that creates a ton of strain in my fingers, and it creates a ton of strain in my wrist. And it's been super, super painful, if I have to be honest. So I need to rest my hand for 2 weeks. I think we're going to be fine with 2 weeks rest. I'm going to try to take care of it. And we'll see you guys on January. But let's not think about that. We still have 2 weeks to go. So let's celebrate and be happy about these 2 upcoming weeks. So we'll see you guys next week. New theme. We love you. Thank you. Bye.